Iowa's News Now Sports has your all-access pass to all things Hawkeyes. This is Eye on the Hawks.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of a big confidence booster for myself and the rest of the girls. I think we've been playing really great basketball, and this is the time we want to do it. So we're excited for our last game here, and then heading into tournament play, I think we're in a pretty good spot.
Last night's Michigan game, hopefully a sign of things to come for this Hawkeye women's basketball team. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks with Owen Seaburn and Mike Howell. Our last regular season show of the season. Make sure you join Eye on the Hawks for every installment that we have, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, or X. We've got, I had just finished uploading all of our senior day interviews that we have with the Hawkeyes today onto YouTube, so watch those views pile up for the Hawkeye women as they prepare for, those seniors prepare for their last day at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and make sure you follow us on X especially. We're really posting a lot of good content on there, whether it's them, the men, Cooper DeJean, whatever's happening in Hawkeye world. With football season coming up here in a month and a half with their spring game, so a lot to follow with Eye on the Hawks. But today we're talking basketball, largely the women's game, and a little bit of the men's team as we finish out the show later on, if anybody even decides to stick around for that. But the women right now, boy, that game against Michigan last night was about as good as you could hope for. Coming off those two close losses to top 10 teams, and they looked just outstanding against a really good Michigan team. Yeah, Michigan
is pretty good, and I was kind of nervous heading into the game, road game, quad one of those vaunted quad one games that you want to get, and you know, Michigan, I forget their record, but they were just kind of like Iowa. They played like 3 less games, and it's just one of those wins that if you get it, you know, you can start to put together a resume that might get you off that 8, 9, 7 line, which would be huge. You know, unless if you're second round, you're playing a 3 instead of a 2 seed. So very encouraged, and what I liked most about it is just your seniors are stepping up at the right time, right? So like Sid, 24 points. She had 11, or how many rebounds? 11, I think, around there. And then Lucy backed it up with 20. And, even though your other seniors like Kylie had 4 steals last night, she didn't have like double-digit points, but she still impacted the game. You know, there was a play when there was a fast break and she got back on defense and stopped an easy bucket. So, you know, it's just those seniors are kind of making those big plays.
Yeah, it was like the quietest 20 points from Lucy Olsen, just because Sydney stood out so much last night that Lucy's 20 were just like, I mean, again, exactly what we need from her. Sydney Affolter went 4 for 4 on 3-pointers in the first quarter, and then didn't shoot a 3 the rest of the game. Had a career night on 3-pointers in 1 quarter. That's the most she's ever made in a game in her Hawkeye career.
Michigan's defense was up on them, though. So, like, once they got those 3s in, and I know Lucy hit 4 threes too, and you know, once you get that offense going and you start collapsing the defense and the players are having to help, that's where you can get open shots. But, Michigan, I thought, was playing pretty good defense. And it was one of those games where Iowa was winning by like 5, 10 points a majority of the game. And they just didn't really let Michigan come back, even after, Michigan made a little run when they were down 20, that they got it within 6, and Iowa just kind of closed the door.
Yeah, yep, and that's what they need. I mean, I still am like, boy, I still have the hardest time seeing them get up to a 6 seed in the tournament. Like,
yeah, maybe.
I feel like you'd have to make at least the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament to be considered a 6 seed, if not make the championship game. Like, that still seems like a really logs there in the tournament.
Yeah, maybe, and they'll get a chance. I was looking at the tournament standings, and it looks like Iowa, if they make it to Friday, they'd probably play UCLA or USC, whoever loses the game on Saturday. But, during the game last night, they put up like the projections for Michigan and Iowa, and Michigan was projected as a 6 seed. And I'm like, Iowa has a couple more losses.
The NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
What?
Big Ten Plus productions, maybe that wasn't, the case. But I was like, I think Iowa has a better resume than Michigan, but, they have one more conference win. So.
Yeah. I mean, who are their quality wins against? Like, I didn't even really dive that deep into Michigan's schedule, but who have they beat that, stacks up to like USC win or something?
Yeah, I don't see one right now. Virginia Tech, isn't a quality win. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. They beat Minnesota, who was ranked at the time. Michigan State.
They've lost. Yeah, they've
Nebraska.
Lost to everybody that you'd expect. Beat Michigan State. Yeah, that seems weird.
Yeah, Charlie Cream has them as a 6 seed in Fort Worth.
Okay, well.
So that's what I'm saying about the 6 seed is, like, I look at the resumes. Of course, you're only comparing those two. I think Iowa has a stronger resume than Michigan.
Got to be, yeah.
So I think they have a shot. I just, I'm not a bracketology expert, so we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. I think right now, assuming they beat Wisconsin on Sunday, I think they're this team, at least you can say right now, they'd be in no matter what. That was
I don't think it's in
a couple weeks ago, but that at least after beating Michigan, I think is locked in. Iowa's in there.
I kind of thought they were locked in regardless.
Really?
Well, I guess if you take Charlie Cream as in the know, a 7 seed, the bubble teams are all the 11s, so I think they had some leeway.
Iowa Richmond matchup, boy, that has shades of Buffalo men's NCAA tournament a few years back when I was a 5 seed and lost to the 12.
I don't like to think about that, but if you're watching the YouTube stream, we have the Charlie Cream bracketology up right now as Iowa's a 7 in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I'll just scroll up. It has Michigan and Fort Worth and TCU's, I don't know what those are called, brackets or whatever.
Yeah. Scroll back down to Iowa quick. Again, watch on the YouTube page and you get this great content. NC State's a good team, but if I'm a Hawkeye fan, I don't hate that lineup. NC State is good, but that's a beatable team. That's not a team that had to play a Big Ten schedule like a lot of these great Big Ten teams this year. And I don't know. That would not be a bad matchup. Bracketology is all very fluid for what's going to happen. But if that is what it turned out to be, I'd like that pairing if I were the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah, they did beat number 1 Notre Dame last Saturday though.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
That's pretty. So they can compete, but no, I know what you mean too.
They were a Final Four team last year.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, both in men's and women's.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is one of those teams though. I don't think you want to play Notre Dame. They're not on the 8-9 line. One of those big dogs. Mm-hmm. You would want to, maybe play something like that. It still would be a tough matchup though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why seeding in the Big Ten tournament is going to be so weird with where Iowa ends up and what their path through there looks like, and I don't know, just still so much that's going to be in flux over the next. Selection Sunday is still 2.5 weeks away.
It's the same night as the men's.
Yeah, so we've still got a long ways to
18th
wait.
or 19th, whatever that Sunday is.
Until that time comes, but still a lot to be decided. But we're going to figure something out on Sunday when they play a Wisconsin team that they're down again, that is not doing all that well right now. I don't know much about Wisconsin except that they're a team that's I don't know, are they going to make the Big Ten tournament? Bottom 3 teams out. What do we got?
I do not have them make. No, I have them as a 14 seed. That's what they are in the current standings right now. They play Nebraska on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. And we've got at least between Addie, Lucy, Sid, and AJ Ediger, we have at least 4 players who are playing their final game at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Kylie Feuerbach, as we were talking to her today, she still's undecided on what she's going to do next. Her first season that she played at Iowa State was the COVID year, is 2020-21, and so she's only played 3 years of official eligibility, so she could come back for one more season if she decided to. So she just kind of said she's going to go through all this process, and then I think maybe not until after the season she can decide she comes back.
But she spoke with the seniors today.
Correct.
And there was media availability for all the seniors. Why didn't AJ speak? Did anyone tell you why?
So she did speak.
Oh, okay.
That was. It got confusing for us because they told us, okay, we're going to have the seniors talk and then Jan's going to talk. And so, the other seniors talked and then Jan came in, without AJ coming in. And so, Jan wrapped up and then all of us media were like, well, maybe AJ was busy, so she's not going to talk today, I guess. I don't think Molly Davis maybe talked last year, so just because there was a conflict. So we we're wrapping up our stuff and walking out the door and they're oh, and the SID Bailey was oh, hey guys, AJ's still coming. We're oh crap, better set back up. So I went back in. I didn't punch it up on the live view, so you didn't get a chance to roll it. But
that makes sense.
AJ did talk today, though. Forgot that we weren't rolling on that. But do we want to cue up this shot? Because we had a chance to hear from all these seniors talking about kind of their favorite moments here playing for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird press conference because it's right after
big win.
It's right after the day after a big win, and usually they talk about the games and maybe Wisconsin, but a lot of today was focused on what they're going to do next with their lives, senior day on Sunday, and kind of their favorite memories. So I just queued up 3 sound bites, I should say, if you're not in the know for TV terminology, of their favorite moments. And then you asked Lucy and made her cry about her emotions.
Now, I didn't make her cry because here's what just surprised me was because I think, who was first? Addie and Sid came in there. Addie, Sid, and Kylie came in. And it was kind of had your normal responses. They were oh, yeah, looking forward to it, really reflecting a lot. But then Lucy comes in and like immediately you can tell that her like her eyes are red and she's already like been like emotional. And so that's why I asked her. I was like, we just had like 3 players in here who've been here like for 4 years, but you're the most emotional of all of them. So had a chance to hear from Lucy Olsen on why she was the most emotional of anybody today.
Maybe I feel like playing against LSU last year, just kind of having a really good game that helps lead us back to the Final Four and get that big win over LSU. And I feel like my defense against Angel Reese really helped us get there.
There's so many moments on the basketball floor that I'll definitely remember. I think, last year's run was pretty special. Like you said, the West Virginia game is one I'll remember for sure. And I think the LSU and the Nebraska game were 2 of my favorites. But besides the basketball, I mean, just the program has meant so much to me, and the girls that I've gotten to play with, I'll be friends with for life.
Both Final Four runs were really cool in different ways because the first year I wasn't able to play, so I was able to experience it from the bench, but it was also just like a super cool, fun experience, and that team was so special. And then being able to then once again make it last year was just super cool, being able to play. I could probably list a favorite memory from every single day, so it's hard because so many moments have been special. But yeah, I would say those Final Four runs were super cool, but there's so many things that add up to it that also have amazing memories as well.
We've had a few players in here that have been here for all 4 years, and I feel like you're the first one who's been already kind of visibly emotional already.
Yeah.
Why is that with you that just after 1 year that you're feeling these kind of emotions for Iowa?
Yeah, I think they just took a chance on me, and yeah, I don't know, it's a lot. And just the progression throughout the season, we've worked so hard, and we've ups and downs, but we kept fighting together, and I feel like this team is so special to me. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy obviously meaning a lot to this program in her first season. As we talked about during that time, somebody who's kind of been a fan favorite, even though she's been here for less than a calendar year. Somebody who, clearly the program means a lot to her too.
I thought it was funny she said that Iowa took a chance on her because I felt like she was like the #1 recruit in the transfer portal last year. At least from an Iowa perspective, that was the one that get that person who or player who scored 3rd most points or whatever it was coming out of Villanova last year. So different perspective than you'd think.
Yeah.
I know it was a struggle to start, but she's really taken over kind of as a leader. Her and Sid have. We remember Sid came back from that injury early on. The first, I was looking it up, the first 8 Big Ten games, Lucy only scored like 11.4 points per game.
Okay.
These last 9 games, 22.3.
Wow.
When you look at Sid's...
Last 9 games, 22 points a game average.
Yeah, last 9 in the Big Ten. And then the first, 8 was 11.4. And then Sid, a little bump, but Sid's first Big Ten games, 8 Big Ten games were 7.5 points per game. And then her last 9 were 11.7. And she has, I believe, 6 double-doubles in conference play.
Yeah.
Which it's always weird because she's not like, a big player or tall player. But it always seems like she gets like 10 rebounds a game.
I know. Yeah, her last, let's see, 3, 4, 5. Her last 6 games, her rebounds were 11, 11, 15, 14. Only 2 against Nebraska for whatever reason, and then 14 against Minnesota, 9 against USC, 15 earlier than that against Oregon, 13 against Nebraska. It's weird to say you don't see a guard rebound this well that often, but obviously we saw it with Caitlin Clark the last 4 years. She was a good rebounder too. But yeah, for Sid to not have the size that so many players have, but to be still pulling in that many rebounds a game is really extraordinary. Lucy too. It's you could tell that just the chemistry took a while to find, and we talked about that all in the early season about just not having anybody late in the game who is able to step up, and she stepped into that role so well and been the player who steps up late in the game when they need her. And that's what makes this team such a dangerous out in the postseason, is that they're just now kind of really stepping into their best chemistry at this point in the season. And so, if they showed up in NC State's bracket or even Notre Dame's bracket, it's nobody really would want to play Iowa right now, I don't think.
That's true. And I know it was an impressive win last night, but you just jogged my memory of something that happened against UCLA. Okay. And I wanted to bring it up. It was the last second shot. Lucy is the #1 option, right? But I still, after listening to Jan after the game, she said that Addie was the number 3 option for 3 because she can shoot the 3.
Which, okay.
She hasn't shot a 3 all year until that time. A little puzzling. I would have liked to see either Addie inbound the ball so she can't be that option.
Yeah.
Her down low so she could tie it.
Right.
Or, someone like Sid or someone else be that 3rd option. I don't know. That jarred my memory and I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, really one of the strangest end-of-game scenarios that you could have imagined. Like, obviously they're going to try to tie up both Lucy and Taylor, but can Kylie shoot the shot? I would have
Sid,
said
Aaliyah. I know Aaliyah missed one against Nebraska.
anybody else. Yeah, that was about as puzzling of a last-second play. I mean, to say that she's the 3rd option, I'm like, that should have been like the 8th option.
And no shade on Addie. I mean, maybe she can shoot it in practice. She hasn't shot it in a game.
A little shade on her as a three-point shooter, I'd say yes. Like, no. Like, she hasn't shot a three-pointer all year. Like, there's no reason she should be any sort of an option there to have a game-winning shot in that game.
That's true, and it might seem like, oh, well, they probably win 20 games. Mm-hmm. Another top 5 win in the net would, boost them up maybe to that 6 or 5. Yeah. So, that's why I wanted to bring it up. It was, the Hawks have been playing above their weight a little bit and coming up short against the Ohio States, the Marylands, and the UCLAs. They did beat USC, so you got to give them credit for that. But it has been some puzzling decisions made, and I think we should still be.
I don't know if there was some emotions that went into that decision where Jan kind of like, oh boy, what a great story this would be if. This is her legacy-defining moment, hitting the three-pointer against UCLA, against Lauren Betts, who was her high school teammate, knocking off now the top 5 team in the country. And so there was a little bit of, her wanting the nice story out of it or something, but it just really makes 0 sense to me that was even an option on that play, that Addie was even on the floor. Can't really wrap my mind around it, especially shooting with that much time left. It's like you got 4 seconds. You could still pass it again to somebody else. I mean, there's still more that you could be doing.
Or dish it back to the inbounder. A lot. So
yeah, that was.
We don't dwell on the bad things though. We got another game to look forward to. At least the last one of the season at home on Sunday against Wisconsin.
Right. Yep. And before we get to Wisconsin, I just wanted to ask kind of about some of these seniors.
Yeah.
If in our time following and covering this team the last few years, if there's again any memories that stand out for you. Today we asked about all of their kind of favorite moments of themselves, what they are really going to remember, either a game or a moment or a day or whatever. What's that for you? And if you're watching live on the YouTube page right now, feel free to chime in with some of yours, some of your favorite moments.
With just the seniors right now?
Yeah, just the seniors.
I think one that sticks out is Sid's Big Ten tournament last year. Man. And we were there on the sidelines going to watch that, and we're lucky enough to get to go to Indy next week. But just her stepping up after Molly went down and just kind of commanding that and still just being a solid rock. We had questions going into that Big Ten tournament. She played her butt off and just was just a solid player. And you could see next year I was gonna be fine even losing those leaders. So that'd be for her. I still always love a Hawkeye who comes over from Ames. So it's not like a specific memory, but Kylie coming over, it reminds me of Adam Haluska back in the day, just coming over and kind of writing their own memory in black and gold, so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, last year's Big Ten tournament for Sid, even the postseason. I mean, Jeff Linder brought up the West Virginia game, how she had that late and one against West Virginia that kind of sealed the game when that result was very much in doubt until Sid stepped up and might have been the player of the game against West Virginia. Her Big Ten tournament, her NCAA tournament was so good. Mm-hmm. She was just so outstanding coming in. Deserved, a lot of postseason accolades that last year that she didn't get, but still showed up every day and kept grinding. This year, even with Sid too, the Iowa State game, I remember early in the year when she had 16 points against them and just kind of kept driving to the hoop, going right at Audie Crooks. But she had that game, 16 points, 6 rebounds. She genuinely, I kind of have categories for these different things, but Sid is one of my favorite players that I've ever covered in person. She just is such a tough, eats nails for breakfast, just gritty player. She's just so much fun to cover. She has fun out there. She's celebrating after and ones, really gets energetic. I've just really loved following Sid Affolter. So a lot of favorite moments with her. Kylie Feuerbach, I don't know. She's just been such a defensive presence. I remember early in the year, a couple games where she was getting some steals, and those really stood out. Nothing specific with Addie or AJ Edgar necessarily standing out, but Lucy, I think for sure the USC game is going to be one that I always remember with her stepping up and helping Iowa knock off USC.
One more thing I'll say about Kylie is that when you mentioned the defensive presence, I can't remember. I remember she had a nickname last year because she was always get riled up on the court, or we were sprinting, to dive on the ball, or going up and fouling someone. She just was sporadic on the floor, but she had high energy too, and that's just been a staple of her game too. And when you combine that with Sid, will also jump on the floor to get a loose ball, those kind of players who are just gritty and stuff, real fan favorites, and they're a real pleasure to watch.
Yeah, and I think that Hawkeye fans are going to remember this group for a long time, like this senior class especially, like the group that kind of had to come after Caitlin and try to hold things together until the next group of high recruits come into this team. This is a group that really helped keep this Hawkeye team at the, if they're not, maybe not necessarily on the national conversation on a weekly basis as they were last year, but at least keep them in national prominence a bit, have respect from other countries that are ranked in the top 5, get them to the NCAA tournament. This senior class had a big load to shoulder this year, and they've handled it so well.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, so let's talk Wisconsin, the game on Sunday. Got a full screen to bring up for the Badgers as they come to town, sitting towards the bottom of the Big Ten standings. Right now, there's 4 teams behind them, so I think they'd definitely be in the Big Ten tournament. Penn State, Rutgers, Northwestern, Purdue, the other teams that are.
Yeah, I don't have a graphic for this. I just have I put together Iowa's tournament resume.
Gotcha. Let's take a look right now what their resume looks like as we go into the senior day game on Sunday against Wisconsin. 19-8 record, net of 26 is pretty dang
Moved up
good.
3 spots from last night, and I still think no bad losses, even though there's 8 of them on there. Or should it be 9? At any rate, I think I missed that 9th one for UCLA. Those quad 1 and 2, I think we'll play a lot once the selection committee gets together in a few weeks. But looking at the Wisconsin game, Wisconsin's 4-12 in the Big Ten. You should handle them easily. But like Jan said today, they've played in some games, and they've got a pretty good player in Sarah Williams. And there's a lot of emotion around senior day. So that would qualify as a bad loss if, for whatever reason, you don't come to play. And the last couple of games that they played against, I don't want to call them cream puffs, but the lower half of the Big Ten, it was uninspiring. You had the Rutgers game where it looked ugly. It was an ugly game. And you just hope that the players can come to play, and not kind of trip over that roadblock.
Northwestern, too. It's like Northwestern's a team that's maybe not going to be in the Big Ten tournament, and Iowa really had to gut that one out, too. Some games where they really have not looked great, but I feel like the energy in that building is going to be similar to the USC game, and so I feel like I'm really going to be surprised if Iowa comes out and plays flat and doesn't get a win against Wisconsin. That would really stun me. Sarah Williams is great. But this is a team that Iowa has no business losing to. So I think that we can hopefully pencil it at him for a win and not have any surprises come next week when we're heading east to Indianapolis. Let's hear from Jan when she talks about the Big Ten toughness and just how good this conference can be overall and how much they do have to bring it every night.
Yeah, I just think the league is so tough. The top, and then. It's interesting this year. There's just a little different battle, and there's the edge when people are competing to go to the tournament, right? So there's always a little, different level of feistiness when you're playing. Sometimes at the end of the year, people are a little tired or, what have you, or the, expectations, they didn't meet them or whatever. But with this particular way the conference is this year, if you're still in the fight for that, everybody, it just seems like a huge game, and this is a huge game. I don't even know the standings if Wisconsin solidified it or not, but I just know that we've played some, games with them. I think last year there we were tied or something at half. Marissa, I think a lot of Marissa. They're playing a ball screen offense. They got a really athletic post. Sarah Williams is a really great center. They got a couple of kids shooting it like crazy from the three. So we're going to have sound defense. We can't get lost in the nostalgia of senior day. We can't, just think, oh, God, it's the last game of the season. And utter respect for them and anybody in the Big. It's just a tough league. So we're going to have to bring it. I suspect we will. But senior days are always a little dicey because there's a lot of tears flowing before and after.
That's going to be the storyline coming up on Sunday. Going to be a wild one, and I'm sure another sold-out Carver Hawkeye Arena. Sold out then, and sold out for the game that's going to be coming up after that in May against with Indiana Fever. And
yeah, there's a slight update on that, which I think a lot of people are upset about how fast the tickets went today. Just because I know that like the general public got the opportunity next week. So there was a lot of people in our comments section that are pretty ticked off. But David Eichel did you see this tweet yet? Aaliyah Guyton has been called up by the Brazilian national team.
Yeah, I saw that on
so she could possibly play. I don't think this is a given now, but you could see her this spring.
Yeah, I did see something about that, which would be wild. And were you hearing anything about maybe a post that her dad made last night?
I did not see that.
Okay. So apparently, last night, Aaliyah Guyton's dad posted on X. So how does the transfer portal work? How does that all function? And then it got deleted within about 10 minutes or so. But it's just bringing up a lot of question marks now whether Aaliyah Guyton is going to be.
That'd be unfortunate. I feel like she gets a lot of minutes, in the past, and I think Jan. She mentions a lot how she is very matchup dependent on her lineups. Mm-hmm. And I think last night Lee only got 10 minutes when some games she's had up to 18 and 20, Yeah. And same with Ava Hayden, who I thought would play a bigger role. And I think the ceiling, I personally think Addie O'Grady has played pretty well this year. Coming in, I thought that Ava would have more minutes than her and play more and let her grow. Yeah. And I think her ceiling is higher. So that's why I was kind of early in the year, let's get her on the court. Let's work through the freshman stuff. But it seems even more that her role is shrinking, although last night she had 6 minutes and 6 points in those minutes, and she played pretty well. Ava did in those minutes. So there has been some up and down on the freshman minutes throughout the season. So I could see where some parents or whatever would get kind of antsy or upset about the lack of minutes one game, where the next game they're getting twice as much as they did. But that'd be kind of unfortunate because I see her on this as a leader in the next few years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jan's talked glowingly about her being a vocal leader on this team already. I hope that somebody like Sid even could step in and hopefully reassure Aaliyah, where it's hey, I didn't get a ton of minutes my first 2 years here at Iowa, but boy, she stepped in and been so solid her last 2 years. So it's just as long as you stick with the program, good things can happen. As long as you just don't jump ship at the first sign of distress. Mm-hmm. And so it's I feel like the fans love Aaliyah. Everybody in town seems to really like her. The fact that she's played so well as a true freshman. So it's not like the Hawkeye fan base wants her gone or something. I think that there's just always going to maybe be some frustration from family and loved ones if your player is not getting the minutes that you would expect them to. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Some kind of joke today is will that Fever game be the last time we see Aaliyah Guyton on the court at Harvard Hawkeye Arena?
We hope not.
We hope not. Yeah, I'd love to see her stick around and hope she's with the program next year. It'd be great to bring her in alongside Addie Deal and have those two together on the court. Are we talking men's team?
Before we go, we stop talking about I just, given the standings, I was looking at the tournament, and I wish I could have made a graphic for this, but those tournament brackets, editable tournament brackets, don't really look well on the camera. But as it stands right now, I would be the 10 seed, and I don't think, I've seen some fans say oh, could they jump up a couple to get that bye for Thursday? Because right now they'd be playing on Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I don't think they realistically can unless some teams fall off. But right now, Iowa's the 10 seed and will play Purdue in that first Wednesday game. So almost like an easy, book your ticket for Thursday if that's the case. And then they would play Oregon as it stands right now.
Okay.
A team they lost to by 1 point, probably should have won that game on the road.
Yep.
And then as it stands right now, UCLA on Friday. So that's a tough Friday matchup. If they were to move up miraculously to an 8-9 game, which right now Indiana and Michigan State are in, they'd play USC. I kind of wonder, though, like, who would you rather play? And I was going back and forth. You were to beat USC. You didn't beat UCLA. I think UCLA is a worse matchup because of their size. But USC is pretty big, too. They just don't have that Lauren Betts player.
Right.
I don't know. I'd say USC because you already beat them, but
Yeah.
you probably should have beat UCLA if the ref calls that moving screen.
Yeah, I would say I'd rather see UCLA only because it's like, do you really think you can beat USC twice?
Yeah. Can you jump up to a 25-1 run to start the game?
Yeah. I feel like UCLA would be the team where it's like at least you've got some recent familiarity with them and you have a little bit more drive going into that game maybe. But oh man, either way, that's a tough quarterfinal matchup.
Yeah, either way, and I haven't really.
They're pretty much. Is it almost like for sure that in the quarters they're going to play either USC or UCLA?
Yeah, I think so because it's the 1 and the 2 seed, and they each have 1 loss. And who's number 3? It'd be Ohio State. I think Ohio State has 4, so it's UCLA or USC. And I guess the only way Iowa could get off that line is if they drop to a 11 or 12 seed, which I think is impossible because they'd have to lose Wisconsin. And then I think, well, I guess they could, if Nebraska wins, Nebraska could finish ahead of them.
Okay.
But you don't want to lose to Wisconsin heading into the Big Ten tournament, so.
Yeah. A lot of moving pieces. Big Ten tournament's weird. So we'll hopefully at least get a couple of games out there, 2 or 3 for the Hawkeyes if things hold as they are. Still some question marks to be had, though, for the men's team on whether or not they'll even get a chance to play in a postseason period. Right now they are sitting out of the Big Ten tournament. They are 3rd from the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
So right now it's them, Penn State, and Washington are out of the Big Ten tournament.
So that's kind of weird, too, because I looked at the Big Ten official standings, and they have Iowa a couple spots up, but I'm pretty sure they go by alphabetical order and not, which is weird. Don't you think the conference would, sort it out?
Right.
If you go on ESPN, they are right now 16th and out right now, but there's a 1, 2, 3, 4-way tie for that around that spot.
Yep, and they've already lost to USC and Minnesota.
They beat Northwestern.
And they did already beat Northwestern?
Yeah, on that last second Josh Dix 3. First game of the season.
I forgot about that. But now they play Northwestern.
Yeah, on Friday.
On Friday, yes.
I think that's going to be the difference is if you're in Indy and you're not. And, you could probably win I'll just put up the remaining schedule. There's 3 games left. You maybe could beat Nebraska, who's 1 game ahead of you in the standings. Mm-hmm. I still think that Northwestern game is do or die.
Pretty much, yeah.
But
imagine this conversation. Do or die to get into the conference tournament. Yikes.
I was joking with my friends, isn't it going to be kind of annoying when the program brags about making the Big Ten tournament?
And then Michigan State is ranked 8th in the country right now.
Yeah.
That's their last.
Never say never, but I don't think Iowa's going to stand a chance. in that
game is, so let's see, what day is the 6th? Is that next Thursday?
Yes, Thursday.
Okay. Man, a lot happening in our world between going to the Big Ten women's tournament, that game, and the girls' high school basketball tournament. A lot to be covered. It's going to be a tough week next week in the sports department.
And Michigan State's playing for a Big Ten title right now. They got 1 game lead, or half-game lead over Michigan, who they beat in the Chrysler Center last weekend. Mm-hmm. So, Iowa could play spoiler, but I just don't think, you've seen it all year. Iowa just can't hang with the teams who can guard them. Mm-hmm. And their offense doesn't score as much when teams are up in their face. So
I do take issue with this place being called the Chrysler Center when you have 2 major names in this state that are both named Chrysler, but they're spelled drastically differently. I'm like, come on, you guys. Help me out here. Can't have the same name here. This has got to be pronounced differently or something. Anyway, so they did get that win against Washington. I mean, at least something to hang your hat on that they did get another Big Ten win against one of the newcomers.
If they would have lost that, they're probably out of the Big Ten tournament for sure, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, got to be.
Unless they sweep these 3 games, which I don't think is likely.
But, the Illinois game is just indicative of where this team is at. It's funny. The other day I was at Sport Clips getting my hair cut. Obviously, they always have, Big Ten Network or ESPN or something on. Big Ten Network was showing a replay of a game from 2021. There was Iowa versus Illinois, and it was like Iowa was 7th and Illinois was 19th. And it's like,
Was that at Carver or?
I think it was the road game.
Okay, I think Illinois won that
I
one.
believe. Okay, yeah. Was that Kofi Coburn in that game?
Yep.
Coburn versus Garza. Yeah, but it's like, wow, how the mighty have fallen in the Big Ten, where it's like, these are 2 top 20 teams that are like vying for some top seeds at the potentially Big Ten championship or vying for the NCAA tournament, a deep run there. And now it's like, these are 2 teams that are just like barely clinging to life. One just trying to get into the Big Ten tournament, one on the bubble of the NCAA tournament, and both just have fallen off in a major way in the last few years.
Yeah, it is really kind of sad. The last 2 years of the Hawkeye men's basketball team, it's just around this time you want at least any hope to get into the tournament. You kind of had a slimmer last year, and it just didn't, pan out. They were in the NIT. This year, just no shot. The interesting part about the Illinois game, there wasn't much because they kind of in the second half just dominated, and it wasn't very close, is that it was the 7th game all year that Iowa out-rebounded a team, which is weird because they were, I think Illinois is a pretty good rebounding team. Only the 3rd Big Ten team they've out-rebounded.
Wow.
Indiana, Rutgers, and Illinois. So what does it mean? I don't know. Probably they just got a lot of long shots. And
That is weird because Rutgers at least was a game that they won.
Yeah, and Indiana too. They blew out Indiana at home.
Oh,
the Indiana game, they were 3-2 in the Big Ten, and they've, fallen apart since then.
Yes, they certainly have. So they could. I'm curious to think right now because they could finish with a winning record around 500. Maybe if they lose these last 3, they'll end with a losing record. I really wonder, if they get an invite to a postseason tournament. I mean, I feel like the NIT even would be a long shot. Like if they get invited to one of those next year, the CIT tournament or whatever tournaments are going on, would they accept an invite?
I think 100%. I mean, Drew Thelwell,
Okay.
Peyton Sanford, would you deny them extra games?
Okay.
I don't know if that's possible. There is a new tournament that's only Big East, Big 12, and Big 10 called the Crown in Vegas. And I think that's going to be the first round. I think the NIT is going to be the second round of Big 10 teams going there.
Oh, really?
I just don't know how it works with the Crown.
Crown, that's getting the better Big Ten.
Because the conferences are involved. It's never happened before, so I don't know how many teams they're going to take. It's like a 16-team tournament, and it's only 3 conferences. So I'm thinking they might have a shot, but I don't think so actually. But we'll
Kind of blows up that tournament. Kind of blows up the NIT's plans because I feel like they have been pushing more to include more Power 4, Power 5 teams. They're not letting in the regular season conference champions with mid-major programs so that they can allow in more teams like Iowa or Northwestern or Nebraska. So maybe that is where Iowa's going to end up as an NIT. I don't know. I just feel like there are certain times where a team is just gotten so worn down over the year that it's just we're just not even going to bother accepting an invitation to anything just because it's let's just put a wrap on this thing rather than extending it a little bit longer.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Really?
Yeah, I think this team would definitely go, and they'd be playing teams that aren't the greatest, right? Because all those teams are in the NCAA tournament. And with those 2 seniors, especially Peyton and Drew, I think they would accept anything. I just think in a traditional year, the NIT would be off the board. I just don't know how much the Crown impacts. Okay, we're going to take teams that are 500, right? But this Iowa team could very well finish a game under 500, and then I think it's off the table,
Yeah, I never know. And it's different now, too, between the NIT and the WNIT. The WNIT, there's 3 and 4 win teams that they include in there. It's all bets are off. Basically, anybody who wants to go.
Really?
Yeah, it's very strange. Do not understand the WNIT format at all. But for the regular NIT, there's at least traditionally there's been some sort of standards, but it seems like with all the tournaments that they have, if you're a Power 5 conference team, you can go somewhere. Would they accept a CIT, like CBI invitational, though?
I don't think they ever. I don't think the CBI or whatever would give a team that's hovering around this a chance. I think that's more so for the lower mid majors. Here's some more information about the Crown. They give 2 automatic qualifiers to the top 2 Big 10, Big East, Big 12 teams that don't make the tournament, and right now that's Indiana and Ohio State. And then in the standings, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Iowa's a 6th team, so I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah. That's cool.
I thought there'd be more teams going to the tournament, but I don't know how that impacts the NIT. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see. This is the first year of this tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's also 10 extra at-large bids, so there probably will be more Big Ten teams, but I don't see them taking, 8 Big Ten teams in that tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we're reaching the end of it. We've got the men's season's wrapping up in a couple weeks, and the women's regular season going to finish up on Sunday, and then you and I are off to Indianapolis, where we'll be doing, daily podcasts out there? How are we going to handle it out there?
Yeah, last year when we did every night. If Iowa won, we do a podcast. So I think that's probably what we're going to do again. So likely starting on Wednesday night, we'll do one Thursday if you win or lose, and then depending on how far they go.
Yeah. So again, if you're following us on social media, you can see us giving updates for how the team is doing and when you can find us live. Usually pretty just roughshod improvised format where we'll kind of set up a couple chairs in the arena and do a podcast to discuss the game after that. So it's nothing fancy, but you'll
gets the job done.
Yeah, you'll hear our wisdom and insight after every Iowa game.
Last year's after the championship game was pretty cool. We got the whole arena was
gotta be on the floor.
Yeah, was empty, so we got a good scene setter there.
Indeed. All right, yeah, make sure you join Eye on the Hawks and Iowa's News Now on all the social medias, and we'll talk to you again next week.